Now, this is not the week to open the show like we usually do with an an outtake or some little witty banter we have before the show. That's because, of course, this week was struck with tragedy in the Division III community with the news of the passing of Trine senior guard Fred Garland. So we thought it more appropriate to use the beginning part of the show just to um, offer our condolences to the Trine basketball family, the Trine community at large, and the Garland family, certainly. Um, there's no doubt that Fred, a member of that national championship team from a year ago, leaves a legacy at Trine basketball, but it's a legacy left far too soon.
Yeah, Zach, he was a great player and a great competitor. We saw him up close and in person in the Final Four last year. We saw him on the court as a member of the Trine basketball team, and before that, part of the Albion basketball team. But he was a friend, he was a teammate, he was a family member to others. The D3 community is a tight knit one. I think we celebrate together, but we also mourn together. And this week, we're going to remember those who lost a loved one just way too soon.
Welcome into another week on the D3 Datacast. Zach Snyder here, joined by Matt Snyder. And we are once again marching on towards that 1,000 subscriber mark on YouTube, marching on towards episode 100 of the D3 Datacast. Hard to believe we're getting so close to those milestones side by side. But here we are, Matt, another week of Division III basketball.
Yeah, as you said, we're getting really close to 1,000. If you enjoy the show even a little bit and you've not taken the opportunity to hit the subscribe button below, do that. That helps us out so much. That's probably the number one thing, aside from supporting the Patreon, that you can do to help our show right now. So thank you so much for all those who've watched these shows and have enjoyed this content with us.
Now, Matt, this time of year is a little bit uneven, it seems, in the Division III basketball schedule. We've got final exams, and sometimes that means a lighter game schedule. We've got holidays coming up, and some teams take trips, and so you might get a flurry of games, but you might have some breaks where players are able to get home and see and spend some time with their families. So this felt like a little bit of a lighter week. It was probably a heavier week for final exams at a lot of places. So not a ton of action. There were some significant results, maybe a big upset with Wisconsin Lutheran. How are you processing the week that was in terms of the top 25 ballot that you're turning in for this week?
Yeah, I think you introed that pretty well. Most teams, if they played one game, and a lot of the top 25 teams that I had in my top 25 picture won those games, with the notable exception being Wisconsin Lutheran. So that was the big shift in my top 25 ballot, which is now on the screen here for the video watchers. So there's not very much movement outside of Wisconsin Lutheran. I did drop them down to 21. They lost to Illinois Tech, which is not a great loss, I think that we would say. Wisconsin Lutheran, I still have a lot of hope for them this season. I didn't want to kick them all the way out for one loss, but I would consider them in the danger zone. If you take a loss like against Illinois Tech, it was on the road. That's a conference game. We hear that those are always difficult. It's the first loss of the season for Wisconsin Lutheran, if I am not mistaken. So I'm not going to kick them all the way out, but I would say that they're in a danger zone. They want to right the ship in any games they have coming up over kind of like the after exam break period, holiday break period. So they're going to want to watch themselves there. Another maybe change, I think maybe the only other change in my entire top 25 besides teams just sort of shifting around Wisconsin Lutheran is Denison joining in at number 25. Mary Hardin Baylor occupied that spot last week. They lost a neutral site game, a really good game to Cal Lutheran this week, but I had Cal Lutheran just outside my top 25, and I still do on that kind of next chunk of teams, but I moved Mary Hardin Baylor back to kind of where Cal Lutheran is in my mind, and Denison joined this week after a win at Case Western Reserve, which we've had some reservations about Case Western Reserve, but still a nice win for Denison nonetheless. They've looked strong this year. So otherwise, it was mostly for me in the top 25 teams winning games against teams they were supposed to beat by margins they were supposed to beat them. So there wasn't a lot of shuffling for me in my top 25.
Yeah, this time of year, we mentioned how the schedule's a little bit uneven. A lot of those top 25 teams are not necessarily playing other top 25 teams. This
Yeah.
tends to be a time where you see maybe a bigger power playing, one of their easier games on the schedule. Not as many marquee games this time of year, it seems, until we get maybe post holiday, that time in between Christmas and New Year's, teams take some trips, and that's where we can see some more of those big time games coming up. But Matt, let's try to hit the fast forward button a little bit here. This is what our main topic's going to be for the show today. Once again, it's back. It's time to do our Pool C fantasy draft. We're going to hit fast forward and try to predict in contest form what the Pool C bids for this year might look like. Let's cover some ground rules here. We're going to make 11 picks each. For this upcoming tournament, there will be a total of 21 Pool C bids available. So we're going to go with 22 picks here. So by definition, someone's going to get one wrong. We're going to alternate picks until we get to number 10, and we're going to snake it back the other way to try to even it up a little bit. And just to make things a little interesting, we don't want to leave out teams who might be heavy favorites to win their Pool A entirely. So while we'll award 3 points for every correct Pool C pick, there will still be 1 point available if we draft a team that ends up winning their Pool A. So those are the ground rules. That's for those viewers who have been with us for 3 years now. This is the third time we've seen this. We've had a lot of fun doing it. And Matt, we're doing this in a new environment. This is Pool C fantasy draft number 1 in the NPI era. So we're going out on a limb here. We're not sure how this is going to work out. Before, we were working with a very familiar system that we had observed for a number of years, and you were calculating projected SOS numbers and everything like that. I feel like we had some good information to work off of. I feel like I was flying blind in my prep here, Matt. I don't know how you felt during your draft prep.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of guesswork. We don't exactly know how NPI is going to look. We know how it's going to work, but we don't know at this point how to project very far in the future. But that's never stopped us before, Zach, because if we love two things on this show, it's giving ourselves opportunities to look foolish down the road and trying to predict things way too early. So like in October, we had our way too early conference champions draft where we had friends of the show on, and those were regular season conference champions, but teams maybe in line to win their Pool A's. So now today, we're going to give out the Pool Cs. So maybe you don't even need to watch. Who cares about January, February come D3 basketball season? We've basically already got things locked down here on D3 Datacast. Just fast forward to the end, sim to end of season. We got it covered here.
So I was the victor in our first Pool C fantasy draft. You came back and won the crown last year. So that means I get first pick this year. I'm ready to get going if you're ready to get going, man.
I am ready. So we're going to go back into the 2-box, Zach, in the background. You're going to fill in the picks, and then we'll come back and show at the end if that works.
Okay. Well, it's dangerous to have to go first when I've already admitted to flying blind, Matt, but my number 1 pick is going to be New York University.
Okay. You want to unpack that one for me a little bit?
Yeah, I will. I'll just go like this. The UAA is a power league. We know it's going to be a multi-bid league. I feel like at this point, I was looking at Emory as the favorite in the UAA. So I feel like you maybe have a couple choices there. Who you think are the next two? I'm going to go with NYU here. I think we're probably going to hear another name here pretty quickly.
So I wanted you to unpack that because my pick that I have at the top of the board is the exact same pick, but the other team. So I'm going to pick Wash U.
Yep. Okay.
Strong conference, the UAA. I think we both figure that Emory is the favorite there. Not that either of these other two teams couldn't win that, but I think NYU and WashU are probably looking pretty good to get into the tournament elsewise. So if Emory's the number 1 team right now and we think that league's going to get at least 3 teams in the tournament, I think we're both feeling pretty good about WashU and NYU. So that's my pick, and I think that means it's back to you.
Yes, it is. And just for completeness sake there in the discussion, WashU was the second team on my list. So you were correct. I had the same thought process there with both teams, Matt. All right, now so let's shift conferences here. Let's go NESCAC. We talked about the NESCAC being one of those leagues that looks like it's setting themselves up to be a multi-bid league, and I'm gonna go with one of my tried and trues there, the Tufts Jumbos.
All right. Full disclosure, Tufts was number 2 on my board. I think we're definitely thinking about things very similarly here. So I am going to go. I'm sticking in the NESCAC because I'm following a theme. I'm going to go with Wesleyan. Wesleyan as a Pool C team. I think that's a strong league. I think they're looking good for 3 or 4 bids. So it's going to be hard to say who's going to win that Pool A. Of course, the NESCAC has a tournament that they're going to have to get through, but I think a couple of these teams are going to get in almost for sure. Like no one's a lock at this point in the season at all. But if they
Right.
play about how we think that they're going to play, I think a bunch of these teams are getting into the tournament, whether it's the Pool A or the Pool C.
And just like my first pick was between NYU and Wash U, my second pick was between Tufts and Wesleyan. So I'm feeling confident that we're thinking about this similarly at least. Okay, let's change directions here, Matt. The fifth team off the board, my third pick. I'm gonna go UW Lacrosse, a team that has some good wins now. We were impressed with what we saw there in the Great Lakes Invitational. I think you still have to look at Platteville as the nominal favorite in the WIAC, but it's going to be a competitive league. That means there's going to be a bunch of good games to be able to add to your resume. And really, frankly, the way NPI works, some losses that probably are not going to hurt you as some losses that other teams will be taking. So let's fly with the Eagles here for my third pick.
Definitely, UW Lacrosse was very high on my list, but I'm going to go back to the UAA. The last couple of years, a team that seemed like an obvious stay awake for Pool A reasons has lost. I guess the Emory doesn't have the chance to be upset in a conference tournament, but still, the UAA is going to be a meat grinder. So I'm going to pick Emory for Pool C. They're another team I feel like is almost locked up a tournament bid at this point. Whether they win that league, which I think they're the favorite, so maybe it's a little too high to pick Emory here, but I'm going to pick them for Pool C.
Okay. I'm going to stay in Wisconsin, Matt, but I'm going to go Carthage with my next pick. They're
Ooh,
already on the
okay.
board with a road win at Illinois Wesleyan. That speaks to their quality. I think that Illinois Wesleyan is still the favorite for me in the CCIW, but I think Carthage uh, has the look of a team that could make the CCIW back into being a multi-bid league.
Definitely a conference that looks more likely than not to get multiple bids this year and make me look foolish in the process. So I think that that is a good, solid pick. I am going to go to the NJAC. I'm going to pick a team who maybe now is the NJAC favorite. I think they're the top team in NPI right now, but I know the NJAC is a crazy league. Any given night, a team can win or lose, and then the conference doubly so. So I'm going to pick Stockton.
Yeah,
They're ranking highly in NPI right now, and I'm just going to say NJAC things are gonna happen, and that Stockton is going to end up in Pool C.
I like it. I'm gonna go with Denison here, Matt. We just talked about them moving into your top 25. I think that they're a solid number two right now in the NCAC for me. Worcester looking very, very strong. They had a huge win. Today as we're recording Sunday night over DePaul. Give me Denison as a Pool C team. They're off to a good start in their own right.
I'm going to go up to the NESCAC again because I think we are not finished with NESCAC picks. And I think I might go. I'm not sure if this team is on your board at all, so it might be a little early, but I'm going to pick Hamilton. Hamilton Pool C out of the NESCAC. They're 9-1 right now, and their NPIs are looking good. So if they can keep winning some non-conference games, I think they can be one of those NESCAC teams that slides in.
They were on my board
Okay.
in next four territory here.
Okay.
Okay, Matt, I'm going to double dip on the WIAC here and go with UW Stevens Point. I think my reasoning is very similar to what I mentioned with Lacrosse. They have a win over Trine. They look very solid, but they are not Platteville. So I think, although they beat Platteville twice and got even better for this year, so we'll see what happens. I think that's going to be a good race. But give me Stevens Point here for Pool C.
All right. I think we are approaching halfway in this draft here. So I'm
Oh,
going to
yeah, you know what? We kind of messed up. You were supposed to go back-to-back picks there. So let's just give you back-to-back picks here. It's
Okay.
close enough.
All right. Well, if I lose out on Stevens Point because they would have been my next pick, then I'm going to sue you for poor quality, for poor administration quality. I am going to go with Worcester out of the NCAC. You already picked Denison, but I think there's two teams there that have a chance at battling it out in the tournament. I think Worcester is probably more likely for the Pool A than Pool C right now, but they look to be in solid position for a bid at this point in the season.
All right, double it up. Take the turn here for
Oh,
us,
taking
Matt.
the turn. Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to go into the ODAC. And
Ah,
I don't know if this is the right ODAC team to pick or not, but I think they're a team I'm voting for in the top 25. I'm going to pick Roanoke to win a Pool C out of the ODAC.
wow. Okay. I will be honest. I do not have. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this at this point in the draft, but I don't have an ODAC on my list. I don't think that
Okay.
I know know enough clarity to that whole situation to really. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we can talk about that at the end. That's kind of an interesting one. Okay, Matt. I am gonna go with Cal Lutheran here. I think they're very much in the championship race there in the SCIAC, but I think that they are in good position. Where as long as they are in that SCIAC race, they may be able to see themselves into Pool C territory.
Okay, back to me. Man, I just want to know if I'm like going right back to conferences that we have already picked a whole bunch of. Give me the CCIW and give me Illinois Wesleyan. You already took Carthage. I think that those are the two options there, and I think that's a good enough league that Illinois Wesleyan could lose a conference tournament game, and if they do, I think that they'll be looking fairly solid for Pool C.
All right, I'm gonna go back to the NESCAC, Matt, because I think there's still another team that um, maybe has been flying under the radar more than some of those other NESCAC teams, and that's Middlebury.
Okay. We are actually still not short of NESCAC teams that could feasibly get taken here. We'll have to see how that conference shakes out for sure. Yeah, Middlebury, they're a team that I had voted for in the top 25 at points. They're still on my watch list. So I think, yeah, they're a good team, can still get some wins and put themselves in position for the tournament for sure. Okay, I have a few options here. Zach, you already mentioned that you did not have an ODAC, but I'm going to take another one.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Randolph Macon. They're sitting there at only 3-3, but I still think they're a good team. They have a lot of games left to play. They have lost twice to Hampton Sydney, but if you think that Hampton Sydney's maybe like a top 5, 6, 7, 8 team somewhere in there, that's two of their losses are to one of the very best teams in the country. I think they're still going to put up a lot of wins. I think they're going to get a lot of ODAC wins, and I think when push comes to shove, they're going to be tournament caliber.
And that's the one that I wasn't quite sure what to do with in this new environment. They already have three losses, and at some point in NPI, you just have too many losses, it seems. Although maybe I'm being influenced too much by what we saw during football season and not enough by what we've already seen in
Yeah.
some of the results further down the list in basketball season. Um, but I think that you can definitely take some losses if you've played a really good schedule, which certainly Randolph Macon will. I'm just not sure that the total top of the ODAC will be as deep as it was a year ago, where you were talking to like three of the top four
Yeah.
were ODAC teams.
Right.
So that's why I'm not sure if that strength of schedule will be quite where it needs to be for Randolph Macon if they're going to lose, 6, 7, 8 games. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, Matt. For me here, let's put Salisbury on the list.
Okay.
They've got a few good wins already this year, and they're kind of a team I'm having my eye on. So let's put let's put them on the list here. Kind of a different name. I don't think we've ever gone with Salisbury in any of our Pool C fantasy drafts before.
Yeah, they're an interesting team that has already won a few good games already this year, taken a few losses as well, but they're a team that could beat anyone, I think. Okay, I'm going to go to a team that our Calvin Knights have already played twice. I'm going to go back to the WIAC and get UW Oshkosh in here. I think that the WIAC could be a three bid league this year, and I think UW Oshkosh could be in the mix for getting in,
Well, it could be
or
a
it could be a
four
four
bid
bid
league.
league. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
a three Pool C league. Yep.
Yes.
Yes, on my 22 team list, I did have Oshkosh. Um, all right, Matt, let's go back to the UAA. I'm going to go with Carnegie Mellon. You know that the UAA will provide a lot of opportunities for good wins, which will still be important, even though we're in a different system. Um, and sometimes you can get some of those good wins just by the nature of the beast that you're playing someone at home on a Sunday who had to play Friday and travel. So I like the base that Carnegie Mellon's got started here and the opportunities ahead of them in UAA play.
All right, Zach. I have a few different options here. I am gonna go. I'm gonna go to the new Mac. I don't think we've taken a new Mac team yet. I'm gonna take WPI. I think that to me they're the favorite again. I think that they're in line to win the Pool A, but someone like Babson could beat them. Someone like Clark could beat them in a conference tournament. And if that happens, they're gonna have a really strong resume, I think, for Pool C. So I think WPI for me is a good pick.
That leaves one pick to finish off the draft here, Matt, and I will finish us off with Nebraska Wesleyan. The American
Okay.
Rivers Conference was a real story last year. I don't think the conference will be as strong or as deep, at least in terms of the national picture, as it was last year. But I like Nebraska Wesleyan in terms of their ability to put together a strong resume, and then once you get into tournament time, who knows what's going to happen. I will take the field in an American Rivers Conference tournament every time, and so that just increases the chances that whoever the number one seed is, who I have thought all along could be Nebraska Wesleyan, makes it to the Pool C board.
All right, Zach. So we have made 22 picks. They're now on the screen here. If you are audio only, I will read down the picks. I took Wash U, Wesleyan, Emory, Stockton, Hamilton, Worcester, Roanoke, Illinois Wesleyan, Randolph, Macon, UW Oshkosh, and WPI. These are for Pool C selections at large bids into the NCAA tournament. Zach, you took NYU, Tufts, UW La Crosse, Carthage, Denison, UW Stevens Point, Cal Lutheran, Middlebury, Salisbury, Carnegie Mellon, and Nebraska Wesleyan. So all told, we have 3 total Wesleyans.
All right, Matt, top team left on your board.
Honestly, I think it was Babson.
Okay.
Babson out of the new Mac.
Okay. They were number 2 left on my board. Number
Okay.
1 left on my board was going to be Claremont Mud Scripps.
Okay. You took Cal Lutheran, so you're thinking, okay, SCIAC here, we'll have 2 teams potentially in the mix, so maybe one of them wins the Pool A and one of them is the Pool
Maybe,
C.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, and I would have been similar for my last couple of picks for WPI and Babson. Like, which one do I pick here? I think maybe one will be in line. Right now, WPI is the better record. So I think Babson's more likely if they get in to get in through the Pool C, but they might also be more of a team that ends up needing the Pool A to get in at all and might not really be in line for Pool C anyway. So,
Right. And that's what I just had no feel for.
yeah. Other couple of teams I was interested in would be a team like Williams, always in the mix for an NCAA tournament. It seems like we picked 3/4 of the NESCAC as it was already. I think, honestly, as things are shaping up right now, and especially since they don't play that many conference games, so you might not be taking that many total losses in the NESCAC. I could see, I think that they're in line to get the most bids out of any conference right now. It's a good league. They have a lot of good teams that have already won a bunch of non-conference games, including a few high-profile non-conference games. It's not just loading up on cupcakes like we sometimes accuse the NESCAC of. So, another team like Williams, we didn't even talk about Trinity, Connecticut, because I think they look like the best team out of the NESCAC.
Yeah.
But, we could be looking at 5 bids out of the NESCAC, almost no problem, I think. Another team that we didn't mention for maybe similar reasons is UW Platteville. I don't know if they are or are not the favorite, but I don't think we took them, and they were pretty high left on my board as well.
And they probably would have been a good pick just based on the likelihood that someone else knocks him off, right? You talk about the return to the depth at the top, I think, of the WIAC, and that just makes it more likely that even if they do win the regular season title, that whether it's a semifinal or a final, that they're going to need a Pool C bid to get in.
Yep.
Very, very interesting, Matt. We shall see. So once the field is announced, well, we don't need to wait for the field to be announced. We just need the final game to be played, because then we can run the numbers as we do every day at d3datacast.com/NPI, and we'll know exactly what the top 21 non-Pool A teams are, and those will be the teams that go on to the tournament. Looking forward to it.
In past years, all of us spent Sunday night wondering who would get in. Tuning into shows like Hoopsville, where the prognosticators try to dig through the resumes. You're right, Zach. This year, We'll run the numbers. We've already seen in fall sports the actual NCAA after the last kind of game is played. We'll run the NPI numbers and put them out there within like almost an hour or two of the last game. So everyone will know kind of officially from the NCAA who's in and who's out. And Monday, the suspense is just who's hosting, what are the bracket pairings, where our team's headed, not necessarily who's in and who's out.
Right. It's no longer a selection show. It's really just a
It's a
bracket reveal
bracket
show.
reveal. Yeah.
All right, now to our weekly opportunity to make us look foolish, Matt, the picks.
All right, here's a rundown of the last week. Here was our slate. We run these games through the computer efficiency ratings from d3datacast.com. We get a point spread and we pick against that. And we usually get the picks wrong. First game was Farmingdale State, 4.5-point underdogs at Swarthmore. They kept that within 2, so Farmingdale State covers that computer line. We both miss it. Mary Hardin Baylor played a back and forth game against Cal Lutheran. Mary Hardin Baylor was 2.5-point favorites by the computer, but Cal Lutheran ended up pulling away by 7 points. I get that pick, Zach, and you miss it. Denison and Case Western Reserve was an 8-point line by the computer, and they actually pushed against that line. They won by 8, so both of us split that pick. We tie, or no one gets any points on either side of this pick. We had both gone with Case Western Reserve. UW Whitewater played on the road at Virginia Wesleyan. The computer line had a 12.5-point favorites for the home Virginia Wesleyan Marlins. That was a 3-point game. Whitewater kept it within 3. Virginia Wesleyan won, but Whitewater covers, and we both get that pick. And our D3 Datacast game of the week was St. Joseph, Connecticut at Trinity, Connecticut. That was a big 12.5-point line. You said it was too big, and I said I was not scared of it, and that was a big margin, 26 points for Trinity, Connecticut. So I get that pick. So
Yeah,
here's
fool me twice, shame on me.
yeah, we saw
Trinity,
a big
man.
line Trinity and Yeshiva a few weeks back that we picked against. Now Trinity against St. Joseph. They look really good. That is Trinity, and they've already covered some big lines. Zach, you were 1-3-1 last week, which makes you just 9-20-1 overall. I was 3-1-1, so I'm 13-16-1. We are both under 500, but Zach, I think your head is below water at this point, so you're going to have to do some work this week to catch up.
All right, let's get about that work.
Okay, so here's the week 7 picks. If you would like to play along with us, leave a comment below or send us an app message on social media to give us what your picks are. Keep track of your own points. The points don't really matter, but it's just part of the fun. So here's our picks. We have St. John's against Marymount. We're back to the time of the year where we get some of these fun cross-country, cross-regional matchups. The computer likes St. John's by 4.5 points. This is a neutral site game. Zach, what is your pick here?
I believe Marymount's one of my picks in the conference championship draft, Matt, but here I'm going with St. John's laying the 4.5.
Yeah, Zach, for me, St. John's is a team that I'm voting for in my top 25. 4.5 is getting to be a big line. It's not too big, though, so I'm going to go with the Johnnies to cover here against Marymount. Game number 2 is UW Stevens Point against Christopher Newport in a game that I believe is being held in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Stevens Point's been impressive this year. They showed what they could do in knocking off Trine when they were, still ranked number 1. But with this situation, Christopher Newport getting 3.5 against Stevens Point, I will take the points. The computer line points, not the Steven Point points.
Not the pointers. You're taking the 3.5 points.
Right.
Zach, I will lay the 3.5 and go with those pointers. It's always difficult, I think, a team traveling from Wisconsin to North Carolina for this game. What's going to happen here? But I'm voting for UW Stevens Point up at number 10, Christopher Newport at number 19. I think that 3.5 is pretty good line for where I have these two teams in my top 25 ballot. But it's a neutral court game. If it's a game that I think Stevens Point is kind of a top 10 team, I think that they can cover that 3.5 line. So I will go with the pointers here. Game number 3 is Salisbury, 6.5-point underdogs at York, Pennsylvania. Zach, you already picked Salisbury today. You gonna pick them twice?
I did, and I'm gonna pick them again, Matt. Let's just getting 6.5. Yeah, sure. I like them outright. Let's talk about some of the teams they've already knocked off this year. Johns Hopkins, Virginia Wesleyan, Gettysburg, Widener. Maybe not the Widener from last year, but that's still I think a good win. To be getting 6.5 here, easy. I'll take Salisbury every time.
Yeah, this is one I'm gonna pick with you here. I think this line just looks wrong to me, so we'll see how it is. 6.5 points. You're right. If I'm gonna get those points, I'm gonna take Salisbury all day long. Game number 4 is Wisconsin Lutheran at Trinity, Texas, down in San Antonio. 3 points is the line. Wisconsin Lutheran is giving those points. Zach, what do you think about that?
Well, then I'm taking them. Trinity, we talked about it in our way back in our episode talking about the top 50 games in November. Trinity had a really interesting start to the season, playing a really heavy road and neutral court game schedule. Now they're finally back at home, and I'm sure they're glad to be there. I expect that they will play very well. Getting 3 points, give them to me.
Yeah, so you're going to take the home dog. I know very well that going to play over like Christmas break in San Antonio at Trinity, Texas, that's a trap. Never do that. Coaches, if you're going to be trying to schedule that game, don't do it. Never do it. It's 100% a trap. But I'm also bumping up against the kind of like the up down up theory here. Wisconsin
Mm.
Lutheran just lost to Illinois Tech on the road. I think they're going to be mad. I think they're going to be getting in gear, and I think Trinity Texas is a team we've seen this year maybe play some close games against teams they should, maybe get beat a little bit. Wisconsin Lutheran I think is going to be mad, and I'm going to take them to cover the 3 points on the road. And our D3 Datacast game of the week has sometimes been called the best non-conference rivalry in Division III. We'll have to see if that's true or not this week. It's Wash U, 3.5 point favorites on the road against Illinois Wesleyan. Zach, what's your pick?
I'll once again go with the home dog here, Matt. Give me the 3.5. I think highly of both teams, but I'm going to take a home dog. And we saw what Illinois Wesleyan did to Wash U last year. A lot of the same pieces, maybe some better pieces for the Titans this year. So give me Illinois Wesleyan at home.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the same direction here. Pick the Titans at home. I think this is going to be a great game. Definitely deserving of a game of the week type thing. I have both of these teams in my top 6. To me, this is like an Elite 8 preview type of a game, but 3.5 points in a tight battle like this, I'm going to go with the home team. That's a little bit more than home court advantage. And yeah, I have Wash U ranked a couple spots higher, but give me the home Titans in this one. So that is our picks. Hope you like it.
One item in the mailbag here for this week, Matt, comes to us from Jack Kelly on the social media platform known as X. Pointing out, Matt, Rose Holman, buzzer beater winner over Anderson and a 10-point win over the conference preseason #1. People want to know, people being Jack Kelly, I'm sure, when those boys are going to get some respect.
Yeah, so Rose Holman sitting at 5-3 right now. They're 3-0 in the HCAC, so good on them to get those conference wins. They could definitely be in the mix there in the Heartland Conference. I think, though, I want to know who's disrespecting Rose Holman. To me, I think they look like a solid team. They could definitely go on to win that conference. We've seen Anderson win some games and lose some games so far this year. I think that's maybe what the top of the Heartland is, kind of a conference that could beat anyone, but then could go on to lose anyone. I'm not disrespecting Rose Holman. I think to me that they're kind of like an upper quartile, kind of top 100-ish Division III team, so no issues there. I don't think that they're right on my top 25 bubble, but I think that they're a very good team this year, and I would give them like a kind of a top 100 type of good team rating.
Good job. All right, that wraps up the mailbag. Just the one this week. If you have something for us to address in a future episode, you can leave a message as a comment on this episode on YouTube. You can find us on social media, Blue Sky, X, Facebook. Lots of ways to get a hold of us. We would love to talk about anything that you would like for us to address in a future mailbag segment. All right, Matt, that leaves just one more thing to do here before we get out for this week, and that's to thank our great supporters on Patreon at patreon.com/D3Datacast. Their ongoing support helps us do what we do, and we're grateful for it.
Thanks for everyone who's joined us. If you're interested in joining as well at either the $5 Great Job Team tier or the $3 Good Job Team tier, check out patreon.com/D3Datacast. Anything helps us produce these shows and get on the road to cover Division III basketball. We appreciate all the support. We enjoy talking about Division III basketball, and we're just so thankful that others have chosen to join us in that. Zach, had fun with you on this episode, and we're going to sign off by saying, good job, team.
Good job, team.